Them farmers really thought we was going back to them fields. They really thought we was going back to them fields. You know what? My mother was the first generation on her mother's side not to be brought up on a plantation. Not to be brought up on a plantation. That's what I said. My grandfather had a third grade education, but he left my mama 2 houses, property in the bank, property and money in the bank, with a third grade education. And guess what? He worked in fields. My great grandmother worked in fields and cut that cane just like a man. You hear me? And if you think that Eddie Lewis and Victoria C. Jones and all the rest of my ancestors bust their tail in them fields for us to go back to the fields, absolutely not. That's not progress. We're trying to heal from ancestral trauma. We're trying to heal from that. That ain't happening. That produce could rot in them fields before we go back to them fields. They need to let them know that.
Now, black guys are not going to work in the white farms again. That is the message that today's video is bringing across. It's not a show of disrespect or disregard of the plights of the white man, but it has reached a point whereby blacks know their right and they know where they belong, and they cannot be forcefully placed into the farms with the low pay or even no pay at all and harsh working conditions. That is the message that these bold women are trying to bring across, and they say it to remove the thought in the white man's mind that this modern day you can still bring the ancient slavery that killed the forefathers of the black men. Now let us watch these videos and comment on them in the end.
So I know I was talking about, the Latino vote before, the VOW vote for Donald Trump. Okay, well, let's get on to the white folks, the white farmers. So word is out now that the white farmers voted for Donald Trump because they thought they were going to get black Americans in the fields. Because they also thought black folks did not have jobs. So when we put this all together, somehow the white farmers were convinced that black folks don't have jobs. We don't work. we don't work. And so they voted for Donald Trump because they thought, okay, he gonna send them in the fields. So Donald Trump and them, with the whole Project 2025, said, okay, so we got to make this happen. So we got to cut these DEI stuff, all this DEI stuff, to put black Americans out of work. When in reality, they put a bunch of white folk out of work just to get black folks out of work. And so all these cuts that are happening are to try and harm black Americans so much till they think that we're going to go into the fields. Now, when you think about that, that makes you double back and see why they want the Latinos out. Because the Latinos, right, to them, they are reproducing entirely too fast, okay? And so they're like, we got to get them out of here because black Americans don't reproduce as fast as the Latinos. And so if we could get them out, then the black Americans can take their place in the field. This is for real. And so now you double back to the black jobs. They're taking your job. Yes, you got to double back to what he said. They're taking black jobs, y'all. Like, they have all this down. Like, they have all this whole circle. So now let's go back to the farmers, if you're still with me, okay? Because the white farmers, that's what they believed was going to happen. So if y'all got all that straight, this is the message to the white farmers. The last thing you want It's for black Americans to be in your fields. Don't let the devil fool you. As a matter of fact, you might want to let the devil fool you to see what's going to happen. Well, I'm trying to tell you, the last thing you ever going to want is black Americans in your fields. Nah, I'm gonna let you fill in the blank on that one. And this goes to show that they will go to any lengths. Remember I said that, first of all, we had the Latinos, some Latinos, not all of them, just them Cubans, some Cuban ones, talk about you're next, right? To black Americans. So they thought we was immigrants, okay? And so now we have the white farmers who are still living in the 1700s. Thinking back to glory days, quote unquote, they thought with their vote, we were going to the fields. So you got one group thinking they gonna kick us out of here, and you got another group of people thinking that we going to the fields. Now this right here is a real mental problem, because people are literally stuck. I'm telling y'all, people are stuck in the 1700s when they think about black Americans, okay? I'm telling you, their thought process, they sit around probably campgrounds and picnics and stuff and talk about how can we make this happen. That was their heyday. I'm telling you, when that freaking plantation house burned down in Louisiana, I think, right? That was their heyday. Now, I'm trying to tell you, that was their heyday. When that plantation house down in Louisiana got torched, okay? I'm telling you, that broke them. But I just want to, I want to teach them a little bit more history if I have your attention, right? If I have your attention, right? This is some history that a lot of people don't know, okay? But y'all didn't know black Americans had white servants? Y'all ain't know that? I mean, it wasn't widespread or anything like that, but we had white servants. Yeah, and they wanted to be our servants because they needed work. They were coming over from Europe. Yeah, and they were docile too. Yeah, they were docile. And black Americans, the aristocrats. The wealthy ones, because they were wealthy ones, okay? They had white servants. So I don't know if y'all ever see them pictures. Let me find a picture. I couldn't find a picture. I wasn't gonna go back and try to find a picture, but if you can watch videos, you'll be able to find a picture of possibly some black people in the horse-drawn carriages, and there may be someone white as the horseman or the I'm not sure what you call them, coachman or whatever. Yeah, he worked for them. Yes, indeed. It was a big thing. It was a big thing, when everybody began to see in the early 1900s, what? Black Americans, they use the other word. Black Americans have white servants. Yeah, that's a bit of history they don't like to put on TV. And the reason for it is because they were like, okay, they had, white people here that they could hire. And they also had black people here that they could hire. But they felt that the white people from Europe were so docile, and they were less expensive. Now, they weren't the only ones who thought that. The wealthy white people thought that too. The wealthy white people were like, yeah, we like the docile immigrant white people. They're a lot cheaper. They take less money. Yeah, so there's a bit of history for you. Oh yeah, it was like that. Oh yeah, because they knew they would have to pay black Americans a lot more. Lot more. So they always went for the immigrant. And see, when the black Americans hired the white immigrants, they were like really like, yes, we will do it. Yes, we will do it. Because they want to stay in America. Here's the difference though. Black Americans didn't mistreat them. They didn't mistreat them at all. But anyway, that's just a little side note. But yeah, to the white farmers again, this is the last thing you want. The last thing you want is for black Americans to be out in your fields. The last thing you want. Trust and believe. And next time, you know what? Stop basing your vote on how to harm black Americans, because you're going to end up running into that wall that's going to tumble. Okay? That's what's going to end up happening. Stop doing that. All of you do it. Like, all of you. You had the conservative Asian Americans coming through with the whole Ivy League school. We don't want black Americans there. Then you had the I will vote for Donald Trump Cubans, okay, who were thinking, okay, you're next, okay. Okay, we're not immigrants, so we're not next. And now we have the white farmer who thought that they were going to get the black Americans in the fields. And then this is all off of Project 2025. So now look where you got America. Look where you got the United States of America. And you know, a lot of people say, why black Americans think everything revolves around them? No, y'all think everything revolves around us because y'all make everything revolve around us. Y'all stuff coming out.
I want to give you a little history on slavery and how it came about. The white men came to Africa when Africa was not even partitioned. There was not these boundaries that we are seeing today. So when they came, they tried to divide these areas because every colonizer wanted his portion. So like the Frenchman went to Central Africa, the British came to East Africa, the Portuguese were in West Africa and some other places. That is how it happened. So after that, they forcefully took resources from Africa, and alongside they also captured the energetic African men and women and took them to their regions. What was the reason for this? The reason for this was to place them in their farms to work without pay, have scanty food, and ensure that they are placed in very harsh conditions, because the white man didn't see a black as a human. In fact, some of them thought that these are apes who are still undergoing evolutionary period, and they didn't see him as some human being. And that is what happened. So having the thought that slavery can still come at this point is a misplaced opinion, because we are now educated, we are enlightened. In fact, we have even formed our governments. We have schools that ensure that we are taught on our rights. We have civil rights societies and all organizations that can stand for us and make us united against any oppressive move. It means that it's so much impossible to return the ancient slavery to Africa and make Africans work for your farms or in your farms forcefully again. I know that there is modern slavery whereby Africa is still controlled at a quarter, whereby even the leaders they have are chosen for them. Let me give you an example. Democracy is always preached for Africans, because through this term democracy, their rights are robbed in the modern slavery, and they are crafting it in a way that it's so hard for Africans to understand, or the blacks to understand. But what I know is that through this enlightenment that we are doing online and campaigns, someday we are going to know how Africa is being controlled, and we are going to stop that. Because even slavery, when slavery stopped, it started by pointing the ills about slavery. So one point is that Africans cannot go back to work in the white farms. Secondly, in a decade, the African continent will be free, and the black man will have a choice or a right over its resources and even the leaders that they have. Because if you look at a place like Congo, they can never have peace because they're still in modern colonialism. They replaced modern colonialism with the, or rather they replaced slavery, the ancient slavery, with the modern colonialism, which is still unacceptable. Blacks have a right to protect. That is the message that we bring home today. So if you're watching us for the first time, I urge you to make a subscription. Also like, share and comment, because that is how this message is built. Thank you, and may God bless you.